It's not by chance that you're viewing this video. There's a reason you're here. Everything is unfolding exactly as it should. Trust the timing of your life and know that you're being led to where you're meant to be. As you stumble on this video, perhaps not by chance, it will serve to awaken your spirit. You have been walking through seasons that, to the outside world, may have appeared to be marked by failure. People laughed at you. They whispered about your struggles, and many assumed that what you were going through signified the end of your story. But what they failed to understand is that, in heaven's eyes, these were not seasons of defeat. They were seasons of divine preparation. What looked like loss to others was actually God working behind the scenes, shaping your character, refining your faith, and setting the stage for your next level. The world may have tried to cancel you, but they forgot one undeniable truth. You are chosen by God, and what is chosen by God cannot be canceled by man. This message is not merely encouragement, it is divine confirmation. You are not only rising, but the very people who once mocked your journey will become witnesses to the elevation that God has already written into your destiny. Now let us break this word down into 7 prophetic chapters, revealing exactly what is unfolding in your life. Before we begin this journey into deeper revelation, I encourage you to like, share, and subscribe, not because this is merely content, but because this is confirmation. This message serves as a divine reminder to every chosen individual who has been mocked, overlooked, and underestimated. Your rise is not only imminent, it is destined to be witnessed by those who once doubted you. If your spirit resonates with this word, I invite you to type "I'm rising" in the comments right now. Understand that this declaration is not a casual response. It is a prophetic agreement with heaven. It is a bold sign that you are no longer just surviving. You are stepping into your season of elevation with divine authority and unshakable confidence. Not everyone will remain through the entirety of this message. Only those who truly understand what it feels like to be laughed at in private while being prepared in secret by the hand of God. But for those who do stay, you will leave with a renewed sense of clarity, holy confidence, and the boldness to move forward, fully aware that God is about to make your table public. This message is not something to hear once and then forget. It is a spiritual blueprint, a multi-layered revelation designed to speak to your soul in different ways at different times. Return to it whenever doubt begins to creep in, and each time you do, another layer of truth will emerge from the ashes, and a new key will unlock within your spirit. Your rise has already been written in the heavens, and now, those who once watched you struggle will have no choice but to witness the manifestation of your elevation. Now, with hearts open and spirits ready, let us begin this sacred journey into deeper understanding. Chapter 1. They mocked what they didn't understand. People will always mock what they cannot comprehend. Their judgments are based solely on what they see, without any awareness of the divine work unfolding behind the scenes. Chosen one, they witnessed your struggle, but they never discerned your assignment. They saw the delays in your life, but they couldn't perceive the destiny God was preparing for you. They mistook your silence for surrender, and they interpreted your losses as definitive signs of failure. But what they failed to understand is that heaven was working within you all along. Even when it seemed as though your life was falling apart, you were not merely enduring hard times. You were being divinely refined, strengthened, and positioned for purpose. You were being refined. Heaven placed you in the fire, not to destroy you, but to purify you. The pain you endured was never punishment. It was divine preparation. God was molding your character, breaking down pride, strengthening your faith, and teaching you how to recognize His voice in the absence of crowds, applause, or any visible reason to keep pressing forward. To the world, your isolation appeared as rejection. Your quiet seasons were mistaken for failure. Your hiddenness was interpreted as insignificance. But that was merely their limited perspective. They did not see the oil being formed in the crushing. They could not comprehend that your private tears were watering the seeds of greatness. They had no awareness of the weight of what you were carrying or the magnitude of the calling being cultivated within you. They couldn't understand the weight you were carrying because they were never called to carry it. They mocked the version of you that was still in the process of becoming. They laughed at the unfinished you, the one still being shaped by God's hand. They assumed you were lost, when in truth, you were walking in divine alignment. They believed you were stuck, but in reality, God was securing your foundation. They mistook your process for punishment, but heaven called it protection. They questioned your absence, wondered why you stopped showing up, why you withdrew, why you no longer felt the need to engage, post, explain, or defend yourself. But that silence wasn't weakness, it was sacred. You were in the wilderness, not wandering aimlessly, but walking intimately with God, being prepared for the place He has already promised you. You were being hidden, but at the same time, you were being divinely prepared. Though you were off their radar, you were never off God's schedule. What they failed to realize is that God was intentionally taking His time with you, because He never rushes what He values. He was not interested in making you popular. He was focused on making you powerful. He wasn't giving you a platform to be seen. He was giving you spiritual weight, an authority that cannot be manufactured, imitated, or rushed. This is the kind of anointing that only comes through crushing, refining, and being rebuilt by God Himself. What they couldn't see was that you were not just in hiding, you were a living blueprint, a divine design under construction, a future breakthrough taking shape according to heaven's perfect timing and purpose. What they were witnessing was a chosen vessel in progress, but rather than honoring what God was doing in you, they chose to mock it. Instead of interceding on your behalf, they ridiculed your process. Rather than seeking understanding or asking God what He was unfolding in your life, they assumed He had abandoned you. But they were wrong. What they believed to be the end of your story was merely the wilderness preceding the glory. What they mistook for rock bottom was, in fact, the laying of a divine foundation. And what they tried to shame is precisely what God is preparing to showcase for His glory. So do not carry their mockery in your heart. Instead, carry the promise in your spirit. What they failed to understand before, they are about to witness with their own eyes. And when the glory of God begins to rise upon your life, they will come to the sobering realization that the one they mocked was, in fact, someone God had already marked. Chapter 2, Your rejection was really redirection. Chosen one, the rejection you experienced was not accidental. It was not random, nor was it without purpose. It was surgical. Every no you encountered was divinely permitted. Every door that closed in your face was not merely a denial. It was a redirection orchestrated by heaven. God was not withholding opportunities from you. He was anchoring your destiny, rooting it in the soil of His perfect will. The individuals who rejected you believed they were dismissing someone insignificant, unaware that they were actually participating in a holy setup. What they perceived as exclusion was God's intentional act of separation. They thought they were pushing you away, but in truth, God was pulling you apart from them, on purpose, for a purpose. Every betrayal, every abandonment, every silent unfollow, and every behind-the-back conversation may have appeared to be rejection, but in reality, it was divine repositioning. God allowed certain connections to fall away, not as punishment, but as protection for what He was developing within you. There were environments where your soul would have shrunk had you remained. There were relationships that would have distorted your calling if you had forced them to continue. There were platforms that would have diluted your voice had you rushed to stand on them prematurely. The job that never called you back, the circle that stopped including you, and even the family members who never supported your vision. None of it was a loss, it was a lift. What looked like rejection was, in truth, a divine extraction. God removing what could not remain where He is taking you. God was removing you from what was familiar in order to prepare you for what was foundational. He had to separate you from what was comfortable so that you could grow into what you were truly called to become. They laughed when you lost it all. They whispered behind your back when your life appeared to be falling apart. They assumed your pain was evidence that you were not chosen. But what they failed to understand is that heaven often strips before it supplies. God was removing everything that could not accompany you into your next season. He was shaking and dismantling everything that had been built on the wrong foundation, so that He could reconstruct your life upon solid, unshakable ground. God allowed the rejection because it served a greater purpose. He allowed the loneliness because it created space for revelation. He allowed the heartbreak because it shattered the hidden idols within your heart. Yet through it all, he was never punishing you. He was positioning you. They counted you out at the very moment you were most broken. But brokenness is exactly where God begins his greatest work. It is in that sacred place of surrender that he rebuilds you, free from the noise and opinions of the crowd. It is where he fills every crack with grace, strength, and truth. It is where he separates your gift from your identity and reminds you that you were chosen long before you were ever celebrated. God allowed the fake friends to walk away so that your spirit could finally find rest. He removed the distractions, not to isolate you, but to train you in the silence. What appeared to be abandonment was in reality divine alignment. And now those same individuals who walked away will be the ones to witness what God builds from the very place they left you in. The ones who assumed your story had ended will watch the next chapter unfold. Without their help, without their applause, and without their input. They were never meant to be seated at the table God is preparing for you. Because this table is reserved for the faithful, for those who have been refined, for those who remained obedient while carrying the heavy weight of silence and enduring the pain of being misunderstood. Chapter 3. God hid you while he healed you. Chosen one, you were never being overlooked. You were being protected. You were not forgotten. You were being preserved. While it may have appeared that life was passing you by, God was actually drawing you into a secret place. It was a place where the noise of the world could not reach you, where the opinions of others held no power, and where true healing could take place without interference. To everyone else, it seemed as though you had disappeared. They misinterpreted your silence as weakness, your absence as failure, and your quietness as defeat. But in the unseen realm, something sacred was taking place. Heaven was performing surgery on your soul, a deep, deliberate healing that cannot be rushed. It was the kind of transformation that requires isolation, stillness, and surrender. Through every trial you endured, your character was being forged and refined. God was stripping away everything that did not belong to the next version of you. He was purifying your heart, cleansing it of pride, bitterness, and offense. He was removing your dependence on validation, breaking the hunger for approval, and freeing you from the addiction to applause. One by one, he was detaching you from every identity that was not rooted in him. Your motives were tested, and your humility was refined. God observed how you responded when no one clapped for you, and he watched how you treated others when there was nothing to gain. He tested your faith not through blessings, but through silence. And even when you didn't understand, you remained. Even when you felt forgotten, you continued to pray. Even when nothing made sense, you chose to obey. God didn't allow you to go viral, not because you weren't worthy, but because your spirit wasn't yet ready for that level of visibility. He knew exactly what fame would attract, and he loved you too much to let you step into something your current level of maturity could not sustain. You asked God to elevate you, and he responded, "Not yet. Let me finish healing you first." The calling on your life is weighty, and the assignment attached to your name is far from ordinary. The magnitude of your future would have crushed the former version of you. So he kept you hidden, not to hold you back, but to hold you together. He kept you in the dark so that your roots could grow deep, because the deeper the roots, the higher the rise. What you perceived as delay was, in fact, divine development. What you thought was silence from God was actually him speaking the loudest, just not in ways the world could hear or see. The same people who labeled you as lazy, crazy, irrelevant, or inconsistent had no idea what God was orchestrating behind the scenes. They didn't realize that he had drawn you into a secret place. They were unaware that you were lying on heaven's operating table, undergoing a transformation at the hands of the great physician. And the great physician never rushes healing. He does not merely treat symptoms, he goes to the root. He rebuilds from the inside out. And now that the healing is complete, the revealing is beginning. Your voice is stronger, your discernment is sharper, your heart is purer, and your spirit is anchored. You are no longer triggered by small things. You are no longer thirsty for validation. You no longer need a crowd, because now you carry the cloud. What God once hid, he is now preparing to reveal. And now, The very ones who thought you were finished will witness your rise, not in arrogance, but in divine authority, not to prove anything to anyone, but to fully walk in everything God already confirmed in the quiet places of your private obedience. Chosen one, never resent the hiding. That hidden season was sacred. The silence you endured was strategic. While the world assumed you had been buried, heaven knew you were being planted. And now the time has come to bloom. Chapter 4. They never thought you'd get back up. Chosen one, when people mock you, it is rarely because of what you have done. It is rooted in what they assume you will never do again. Mockery is often built on the belief that your story is over, that you have lost too much to recover, that there is no way back from where you've been. They believed the heartbreak would break you permanently. They assumed the betrayal would leave you bitter. They expected the depression to silence you for good. It wasn't the storm that unsettled them. It was the fact that you survived it. They watched you endure things that would have destroyed them, and yet here you are, still standing. They saw your name dragged through the mud, your heart shattered into pieces, and your stability deeply shaken. And deep down they believed that was the final chapter of your story. In their minds, no one rises after that kind of fall. No one continues forward after enduring that level of pain. No one still believes in God after experiencing such devastation. But what they failed to remember is who you belong to. You are not merely a fighter. You are a child of God. And God does not abandon his chosen ones in the pit. Instead, he uses the pit as a training ground, a refining ground, a sacred place where character is forged, strength is built, and purpose is revealed. What appeared to be your lowest point was, in truth, your launching point. What others believed had buried you was actually planting you. And what they assumed had destroyed you was, in fact, developing you. You rose again when everything around you suggested you couldn't. You got back up when nothing in your circumstances had changed. You continued moving forward, not with the support of a crowd, not with the comfort of certainty, and not with visible confirmation, but with pure, unwavering faith. You worshiped through unstoppable tears. You served even while your heart was still bleeding. You remained obedient in seasons when heaven seemed silent. You chose faith when fear would have been easier. You chose honor when revenge was tempting. You chose truth when compromise offered comfort. And now you are rising. Not with noise, not with vengeance, but with divine force, quiet power, and heavenly backing. Your spirit has been rebuilt, your voice has been purified, and your steps are now aligned with a purpose far too great to fail. The very ones who once mocked you are now silent. Those who laughed behind closed doors are watching from a distance, unable to comprehend how you're still standing, because they never saw what God was building inside of you. They witnessed a breakdown, but God was orchestrating a breakthrough. Your bounce back was not accidental, it was intentional. It was written into your story long before they ever dared to mock your name. You weren't just recovering, you were being resurrected. And now everything that was meant to bury you is beneath you. Every voice that once tried to curse you is now witnessing the blessing of God upon your life. Every room that locked you out is about to hear your name again. But this time it will be spoken in honor. Chosen one, they never expected you to recover. But the good news is God didn't need their expectation, he only needed your faith. And now that you are rising, there is no going back, no shrinking, no explaining, no begging for validation. Because no one, absolutely no one, can stop what God has started in your life. Chapter 5. The table is being prepared in their presence. Chosen one, as Psalm 23 is not merely a poetic verse, it is a living, breathing prophecy. He prepares a table before me in the presence of my enemies is not symbolic language, it is a spiritual promise. It means that God is not only going to elevate you, he is going to do it in full view of those who doubted you, the same people who mocked you, the same ones who labeled you, and those who witnessed your lowest moments and assumed your story had ended. They will have front row seats to your divine elevation. God's vindication will be visible. His favor will be undeniable. Chosen one, your rise will not be hidden. It will not be tucked away in silence or confined to private victories. No, God is ensuring that your restoration is seen. He is not simply vindicating you quietly, he is establishing you publicly. Because this is not just about restoring your name, it is about confirming his own. Through your life, he is revealing his faithfulness, his favor, and his unmistakable fingerprints. This table isn't about ego, it is about evidence. Evidence that God truly takes what is broken and transforms it into something glorious. Evidence that obedience, even when costly and prolonged, always bears fruit. Evidence that the rejected can still be elevated, that the misunderstood can still be mantled, and that those once silenced can still be seated in honor. You are not rising to prove them wrong. That is not your mission. You are rising to prove that God was right. Right for choosing you. Right for keeping his hand on you when others walked away. Right for continuing to invest in you when people gave up. And right for calling you chosen, even when you didn't feel qualified. And here's the irony. The very people who once whispered about your downfall will now be forced to watch your destiny unfold. The same mouths that mocked you will fall silent when your name rises again, this time with honor and heaven's undeniable backing. And they won't be able to deny it, because what will rest on you won't be just favor, it will be evidence. Evidence that God is with you. They will see doors open that they never believed you would walk through. They will hear your name spoken in rooms they never imagined you would enter. They will watch as the very things they once laughed at become the instruments heaven uses to bring freedom to others. Not because you are better than them, but because you chose to obey when they merely observed. You sacrificed while they played. You fasted while they mocked. You remained faithful while they were distracted. And now, the table is being set, not in secret, but in full view. This is not a moment for revenge. It is a moment for recognition, not of you, but of the God who carried you through it all. The table is about alignment, about elevation, and about divine justice. It is not merely a seat, it is a signal. A declaration that what God begins, he also completes. It is a confirmation that those who remained faithful in the fire will one day feast in front of their accusers. And here's the beautiful part. You won't need to say a word. Your peace will speak for you. Your glow will testify. Your fruit will echo louder than their former ridicule ever did. You will take your seat at the table with grace, not with bitterness, because now you understand. This table was never about them. It was always about him. So let them watch. Let them wonder. Let them remain confused. Because you are not rising to be seen. You are rising because he is sending you. The table is set. The season has shifted. The seat has your name on it. And your enemies? They won't be able to stop it. They won't be able to touch it. All they'll be able to do is watch you eat. Chapter 6. Your rise is prophetic, not personal. Chosen one, what is unfolding in your life right now, or what is about to unfold, is not merely a comeback story. It is not simply personal success. It is a prophetic movement. Heaven is using your life as a declaration to the earth. God is using you to demonstrate what it looks like when someone remains faithful in the fire, consistent in the silence, and obedient in the midst of uncertainty. This rise is not about proving anyone wrong. It is about proving that God is still faithful, still powerful, still moving, still choosing the rejected, still exalting the humble, and still creating miracles from the very lives the world counted out. This is bigger than you, much bigger. God is using your story as a divine lesson to the doubters, a source of encouragement to the weary, and a sign to the silent watchers. Through your life, he is declaring, "This is what I do when someone refuses to quit. This is what I do when someone chooses to trust me without applause, without a spotlight, and without certainty, just pure surrender." Your rise is not about gaining platforms. It is about fulfilling prophecy. It is not about attracting attention. It is about walking in divine alignment. It is not simply about favor falling on you. It is about truth being revealed through you. God is answering unspoken questions through your life. He is silencing critics, not with your arguments, but with your anointing. He is using your journey to show others what becomes possible when someone stays committed to the process, even when it feels lonely, confusing, and unbearably heavy. Your success is not a clapback, nor is it a tool for throwing shade. It is not payback for those who wronged you. It is the fulfillment of a calling, the completion of a divine assignment, and the undeniable revelation of heaven's hand moving in real time. You didn't arrive here by hustling harder than others. You accessed this place through obedience. You reached this moment because you chose to yield when rebellion would have been easier. You remained silent when you had every reason to expose. You continued to worship when walking away might have made more sense. You forgave while you were still bleeding. You kept showing up with nothing but faith in your hands. And now, God is showing up with undeniable evidence in His. So as you step into this next season, don't carry bitterness, carry the blessing. Don't allow old wounds to pollute the new wine being poured into your life. And don't let the echoes of what they said about you drown out the voice of heaven, which is about to speak on your behalf in ways you could never have orchestrated. You don't need to explain yourself to those who mocked your struggle. You don't owe anyone a breakdown of how you made it through. Let your fruit speak. Let your joy speak. Let your consistency speak louder than any explanation ever could. Because when God exalts you, your silence becomes a statement, your peace becomes a weapon, your presence becomes a testimony, and your life becomes a living sermon. You are not rising to be idolized, you are rising to be used. Used by God to show the world that the slow path is still the sure path, that the hidden life is still the holy life, that purity still holds power, and that those who suffer in silence will one day walk in glory, right in front of the very people who once believed their pain was permanent. Chapter 7. Walk into this next season with your head held high. Chosen one, this is your moment. Not just any moment, but the very one heaven prepared you for when no one was watching. It is the moment that was whispered over you in the secret place. The moment that was prophesied while you were still in pain. You did not stumble into this season. You did not sneak your way in. You endured your way here, through fire, through silence, through surrender. This is not the time to shrink. This is not the time to question your worth. This is not the time to wonder if you are ready. You were forged for this. You were refined for this. And now, it's time to step fully into it with confidence, with clarity, and with your head held high. You have been made ready, refined through the fire, strengthened by the storms, shaped in the wilderness, and anchored in the silence. God did not bring you this far merely to hand you a blessing. He brought you this far to establish you, publicly and purposefully, before those who once said you wouldn't make it. So walk into this next season with your head held high, not in arrogance, but in divine alignment. Not because you are flawless, but because you are fully prepared. Not to boast, but to blaze a trail for those still suffering in silence. Not to clap back at those who doubted you, but to carry the glory that can only be born from the depths of what you have endured. You don't need their apology, release it. You don't need their approval, you are already approved by God. You don't need their understanding. They couldn't comprehend your process, and they won't comprehend your promotion either. God has already validated you, both publicly and prophetically, and that is more than enough. This rise isn't about image, it's about impact. It's about every person who witnessed your fall and now must watch you soar. It's about every soul who once gave up on God but will believe again because of what He is doing through your life. This is about the generation you are called to liberate. It is about the legacy that begins through your obedience. You were mocked in your weakness. You were laughed at during seasons of lack. You were questioned when you had no answers to give. But now they will witness you walk in strength. Not a strength the world bestows, but the kind that only God Himself can forge. You were counted out when you had nothing. They mistook your lack for loss. But now, they will witness as heaven wages war and supplies everything. Provision, partnerships, platforms, and peace. Not because you pursued those things, but because you chose Him. So keep walking even when you're weary. Keep rising, even when progress feels slow. Keep speaking, even when the truth is unpopular. Keep showing up, even when they still doubt you, because the very people who once mocked you will have no choice but to respect the God who raised you. They may not say a word, but their silence will serve as confirmation. They may never admit they were wrong, but their eyes will watch in awe as God completes the work He began in you. And here's the truth. They were never your audience, God was. And now, in His perfect timing, He is revealing you. Your story is still unfolding, and the next chapter will not only vindicate you, but it will also silence every lie ever spoken over your name. It will reverse every curse that was spoken against you. It will redeem every moment you felt forgotten. And the most beautiful part of it all, you didn't fight your way to this place. You rose here. You believed here. You surrendered your way into this moment. And if you're still hungry for more chapters to this journey, or a visual concept for a video or thumbnail, just say the word. I'm here and ready to help bring it all to life. Thanks for watching. Here ends this video. Take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. If you find this video interesting,